Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Danielle, and in this video, we will cover the skill called use of evidence and show what this looks like in student writing. Use of evidence is a skill your students will be practicing all year long as they read and respond to text. What we have found is that the more students write about an idea in the text, the more the students will understand the skills. By the end of this video, you will understand what the skill looks like in student writing, how to score it using a rubric, and how to comment on it and support students while they're writing with over-the-shoulder conferences. When students use evidence in their writing, they need to select and describe quoted or paraphrased details from a text to develop and support an idea. The first step in using evidence is that students need to select strong evidence that develops the idea they're writing about. Students need to be discerning and can't choose just any evidence. They need to choose evidence or textual details that really support their idea or claim. Many students think that just copying and pasting sentences from the text into writing is more effective than use of evidence. It isn't. To use evidence effectively, students need to describe their evidence. When students describe their evidence, they're describing what they notice and what the evidence shows and why it's important. Let's look at some writing from Boy Lesson 3. The prompt is, Doll says that Mrs. Pratchett is a horror. Do you agree or disagree? Describe 2 to 3 details from the passage to show why. To be successful in answering this prompt, the students will need to support her answer with details or textual evidence from the passage that shows why she agrees or disagrees with this claim. Let's read and assess Bernice's response for use of evidence. In order to do this, we need to use the rubric to assess the writing. You might want to print out the rubric for use of evidence or have it open on your desktop. After you use the rubric regularly, you will know the scores well enough and you won't need to use the rubric. Let's take a look at Bernice's response. I think that Mrs. Pratchett is a horror because she has filth that clung around her. Also, she's had a mustache on her upper lip and a mouth as sour as green gooseberry. And it said she never smiled. Also, her apron had bits of breakfast all over it, toast crumbs and tea stains and splotches of dried egg yolk. So I noticed that Bernice has used details from the passage. She's used 4 direct quotes that support her idea that Mrs. Pratchett is indeed a horror. However, she does not describe what she notices about these quotes to show her reader how these details show that Mrs. Pratchett is a horror. In order to assess Bernice's writing, I first need to look at her production or word count, because this does affect the score. Bernice has to write a long enough response to convince me of her idea. Here, she's only written 61 words. When I look at the rubric, I see this limits her possible score to a 1 or a 2. Because she doesn't describe any of the evidence to develop her idea, she's going to get a score of 1. If Bernice had taken the time to describe any of these direct quotes to show how the details depict Mrs. Pratchett as dirty, unfriendly, or just plain mean, this would add to her word count and develop her claim that she is a horror and could get a higher score. Now, let's give her a comment so she can see what she's doing right. Remember, when we're commenting or doing over-the-shoulder conferences, we want to show the student where he or she has started to use the evidence. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight the filth that clung around her, and her apron had bits of breakfast all over it. My comment's going to say, these direct quotes you chose make Mrs. Pratchett seem very dirty. I don't think I would want her touching my candy. Yuck. My comment shows Bernice that she's chosen strong direct quotes that made an impact on me. To see more examples of exemplars and scores for use of evidence on the same prompt, you can go to the teacher resource page. Today you learned what it means when a student is writing with the skill of use of evidence. A student first needs to select strong evidence from a passage that supports the idea or claim he or she is trying to make, and then the student needs to describe that evidence. When students describe what they notice in a particular part of the text, readers are more convinced. Amplify's curriculum helps every student to make progress, especially with your support. We're here to help you make it work for every one of your students. If you have questions about how to help students make progress, score your student work, especially on the skill of use of evidence, there are additional resources for you on the teacher website, or contact your coach for more support. Thank you so much for watching.